When a user visits your website, they do things like click on text and images and give a links, hover over things, etc. These are examples of what JavaScript calls events. We can write our event handlers in JavaScript or VBScript, and you can specify these event handlers as a value of event tag attribute. The HTML5 specification defines various event attributes. There are following attributes which can be used to trigger any JavaScript or VBScript code given as value when there is any event occurs for any HTML element. We would cover element specific events while discussing those elements in detail in subsequent chapters. Now we have HTML5 events. As you can see, there are various attributes and their values or description written over here. So let's start by knowing each and every attribute. First, it is offline, its value is script. As you can see, there is all the attributes here have the value script, so we don't have to be worried about it. The value which we will define the attribute will have the script only. So first is the offline. Its description says triggers when the document goes offline. Whenever a document is going to be offline, this attribute will be triggered. On abort triggers on an abort event. On after print, it triggers after the document is printed. We have a speciality in this attribute is whenever the user is printed its document, you have the value, or if you want the user to be go on any other page or to do some event after the documents get printed, you can use this attribute. On before on load triggers before the document loads. Yes, if you want to show some message before the page loads, you can use this attribute so that the user shows the message before the page gets loaded. On blur or on before print trigger before the document is printed. Before printing processes starts, you can put some value or show some message to the user saying anything you want using this attribute. On blur triggers when the window loses focus. On can play triggers when media can start play but might has to stop for buffering. This function can be used where you are showing any video and then the video is stopped due to the buffering moment, and in between these two stages you can show your ad or any message that your internet is flowing or the video is buffering, please wait, like this, something like this. Next is on can play through. It triggers when media can be played to the end without stopping for buffering. On change it triggers when an element changes. This means when a div is changed into another div. Then on change attribute can be used. On click it triggers when a mouse click. Whenever you want a mouse to be click on a particular div, and then this attribute comes into motion or comes to screen and sees some value or shows some description, text, etc. On context menu it triggers when a context menu is triggered. Next is on db click. When a mouse is double click, then this attribute is triggered. On drag it triggers when an element is dragged to another position. Then we have on draginator. It triggers when an element has been dragged to a valid drop target. On drag leave it triggers when an element leaves a valid drop target. On drag over triggers when an element is being dragged over a valid drop target. On drag start triggers at the start of a drag operation. On drop it triggers when dragged element is being dropped. Then on duration changed it triggers when the length of the media is changed. On emptied it triggers when a media resources element suddenly becomes empty. As you can see, there are so many attributes with the same value script. Each can be used as per the condition of the page we want. Then on error, on ended, on focus, on form change, there are so many. Like we have on ended, it triggers when media has reached the end. On error triggers when an error occurs. On focus it triggers when the window gets focused. On form change it triggers when a form changes to another form. On form input it triggers when a user gets input in the form, or you can see or as you have seen we have input fields, or you can have you ever seen like a form which have many inputs? Whenever we click on any input field or we started typing any field, there is a tip tool comes right over to it, and it says something text like you have to enter this and this value in this field. So it can be done by using this on form input. It triggers when a form gets user input. As we started typing on it, this attribute gets triggered. On has change, it triggers when the document has changed. On input, it triggers when elements gets user input. On invalid, triggers when an element is invalid. Like I have seen many forms in which there are email fields, but if we try to write any value in this field, it doesn't take. There is condition like we have to write @ and .com, in net, etc., anything in the field. So it should be like example @example.com. So there is two things, @ and dot. These two are basically important or compulsory characters. On invalid can be triggered at that case whenever we don't find any @ or dot in the input field. Then we have on scroll. It triggers when an element scrolling bar is being scrolled. On seeked triggers when a media element seeking attribute is no longer true and the seeking has ended. On seeking triggers when a media element seeking attribute is true and the seeking has begun. Sorry. On select triggers when an element is selected. On stalled triggers when there is an error in fetching media data. On storage triggers when a document loads. On submit triggers when a form is submitted. On suspended triggers when the browser has been fetching media data but stopped before the entire media file was fetched. On time update triggers when media changes its playing position. On undo triggers when a document performs an undo. On unload it triggers when the user leaves the document. On volume change triggers when when media changes the volume. Also when volume is set to mute. On waiting triggers when media has stopped playing but it is expected to resume. So there are so many attributes. Like in this our last slide we have a lot of attributes, as you can see these, and all of these can be used in video. Same we have for audio, canvases and other functions of HTML5. There are other many attributes too, but these all are much enough to get hands dirty on HTML5. Thank you friends.